Hi there, Andre here from Peak Motorcycles. I'm back in the garage, and in this video I'm going to be showing you a little bit about this. This is a Flatland Racing bash guard, which comes from Flatland Racing in the US. Now I know these have been out for a while and they seem to be really popular with people on that side of the Atlantic. I think with things like bash plates, just because the cost of shipping them is so high, and there are domestic ones available here from a number of different manufacturers, they don't really show up in the UK that often. However, I was in the US in January, and while I was there I picked up this and a few other things which seem to be more for the US market. But given that we're all one big planet and people buy stuff from other countries all the time, I thought I'd get one and give it a go. So, first time I've opened it, but I know it is different a few ways. Really simple. This is what it comes with. It's just basically the bash guard with a couple of extra bolts, and that is it. Has a nice little Flatland Racing sticker on the side there. Other than that, that's it really. It's really, really simple. So why have I bought this when I already have a bash guard? I've already got the carbon fiber one from Kodama Composites. So why did I buy this when I took off the metal one that I did have on that was made by Yamato that came from Thailand and replaced it with the Kodama Composites one? Well, there's a few reasons. So one was how it was fixed. On the Yamato one, instead of being just the plate, it actually had two mounting points at the back here, which I think was okay, but it seemed to be putting a lot of weight just on those 2 points. This one has a slightly different design, and if I show you on the GoPro, it's basically these two hooks. So those actually hook over the bottom of the frame instead of just bolting on at the back, and those themselves actually look quite a lot more solid if you look at the size of the bolts that are on there, and I'll show you when I take it apart. So that was one thing. I think it fixes in a slightly different way, which might make it slightly stronger. Another thing is that it has a lot more holes in it. Now I know that holes aren't everything and you still get dust that accumulates, but I am finding that I'm getting a bit more in the Kodama Composites one because it uses the stock bash plate underneath it. And when I take it off and show you for comparison, you'll see that there is a bit of build-up in there. Now, one answer is I just need to wash in there a bit more often, get the pressure washer in and get that out. But I thought I'd try this. What else can I tell you about it? It just feels really solid. It has been shaped to fit around everything on the underside of the bike. It doesn't come up as far as the front as some of the others that I've seen, but it does bolt on in the same place as the stock one would bolt on. It does have these 7 holes in the bottom, including one for doing the oil change, which is nice. I think that's about it for an intro. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my Kodama Composites one off the bike. I will weigh the two of them side by side. I'll put this one on and let you have a look at it actually on the bike. Just one thing to point out is that what this doesn't have is the tabs up the side for the side panels to slot into. So that's definitely a benefit with the Kodama Composites one because it uses a stock bash guard that does have those in there. Having said that, I'm now increasingly seeing that people are actually just cutting off the bottom parts of the fairings on their CRF300 Rallies, and it looks okay. And it certainly stops them from cracking. I've already cracked the left side of mine. I haven't replaced it because I thought I'm only going to crack it again. But maybe just cutting it off, given that that panel is already cracked, is probably the better way to do things. I'll now go and take the Kodama Composites one off the bike. I'm just going to do this sped up. If you want to see a video of how that's done, there's at least a couple of them out there somewhere. There we go, that is off, and you can just see the stuff that's just accumulated. There's a few little stones and things that I guess wouldn't have even washed out. Enough of that probably could get washed through with a pressure washer and it would just come out the back down the sides. All right then, time for a comparison. So here you go, here's a side-by-side comparison. This is the Flatlands Racing bash plate, this is the Kodama Composites one. Now, I do think the Kodama Composites one is the best one that I've found so far as a combination of weight and fit and how easy it slides off things. I do think the holes in the bottom, it's not clearing as much muck as I would like. I'm sure there's a way around that just with a bit more washing, but it is something that's worth considering. I do still think that one benefit with this is that it does use the stock one, which has these two pads on the frame, which just helps to spread the load. And these are two pieces of rubber, which are actually on a deformable plastic piece underneath. So I think if you did have any impact right in the middle of the plate, they would take that first before anything happened with either of the other two mounting points onto the frame. So yeah, so to look at them side by side, they both use those two bolts at the front. The stock one uses the 2 holes at the back. The Flatland Racing uses these 2 brackets which will go over the frame. Front to back, they're actually pretty similar. If I put this one over the top, I think we'll see actually that the Flatland Racing one is quite a lot wider. Looking at kind of this point here on the sides and where that comes to, I mean, they're not exactly like for like, but there's certainly a ruler's width on each side, which I think is about 1 inch. Let me see if there's a better way that I can measure that. That's pretty much a foot at its widest point, side to side. If I compare that, yeah, you can see that is significantly wider all the way along. What I'm interested to see is whether that snags on anything, in particular the pedals. But what I think it would mean is that with this extra width, it probably gives some more protection to the side panels on the bike. We shall see. All right, now the bit that I know that some people will love and some people will hate. Actually, people hate it when I weigh things. I don't think anyone actually loves it, but I think some people think it's funny that some people hate it. So if you don't like this, skip ahead to the next bit. I'm just going to weigh them and do a quick comparison. First up is the Kodama Composites one. This does have the muck that's on it as well as the stock bash plate. 1,237 grams. To compare that with Flatland Racing, I'll put that over a hole there, 1,898 grams. It's about half as heavy again for the Flatland Racing one. I know that the Kodama Composites one is particularly light, even when it's bolted to the stock bash guard, and I think that's part of its appeal. Then again, having an extra 600 grams right at the bottom of the bike doesn't make that much difference to the handling. I think if you've got a lot of weight high up, that can affect the stability a lot more, but at almost the lowest point, I think that that's almost immaterial. Right then, I will now go and fit this to the bike. So the hardware that comes with the Flatland Racing guard are these 2, I guess they're probably stainless locking bolts, which I think they're a 10mm, so that's exactly the same as the ones that are on the back on the stock one. Before I do that, I'm just going to remove the 2 hex bolts there, just so I can fit it. There's one. So let's see how this fits. So, yeah, that seems to actually measure it pretty well. Let's put those straight in. You might not be able to quite see that on the camera. Let's do those up finger tight to begin with. I'll just put the side brackets on next. If you can see it on there, that the bolt hole is just through the bottom here, and then this just goes up over the top and clips on like that. So yeah, I think that's quite a neat way to attach it that's different from the other bash guards that I've seen so far. And you won't quite be able to see this, but I'm just going to go around and do the same on the other side. Okay, that is a really, really snug fit, just with those 2 back bolts on. I'm just going to do up these 2 front ones now, and then that should be it. When I ordered this and I felt the weight, my initial reaction was, well, I've got it now. I'll take a video of it, but I probably won't leave it on the bike. Simply because with the extra weight and the fact that it doesn't have the support for those side panels, that honestly, I think the Kodama Composites one is a better bash guard. So I was going to do this video, sign off, thank you for watching, and then take it off and put the other one back on again. However, now that it's on, I've noticed something. So if you remember when I was measuring it on the bench, that it was that extra inch wider. Now on my bike, I have the Outback Motortek upper crash bars. A few people have said it's too much weight high up, and they're right, it is a lot of weight high up on the bike, but it does protect this upper fairing if you do go over. One thing I've noticed, and I'm just going to prove this now with this metal rule, is that the bit on my bike where I've already cracked the fairing is just down here, and that was just when I went over sideways with it on. And actually now, between there and the bash guard, I mean, you could get a rock that would go in between, but if you were to lay the bike down on its side, I don't know if you can see that with that ruler, but this panel is actually between that and between the bars up here. There won't actually be any contact with the ground. I mean, it does get close there. That must be no more than 1 millimetre or 2 through there, but certainly as you come round, there's enough space to fit a finger around the back. So with that in mind, I'm thinking that even though there isn't the support for this side panel, because it doesn't have the tabs at the bottom, it does mean that between the Flatland Racing bash guard down here and the Outback Motortek crash bars, that whole side panel is actually protected. Now, I don't know how much give there is down here on that welded tab. Probably not a huge amount, and I've only really got 1 millimetre to play with, but given that that panel will move a little bit as well, I'm wondering if that will actually give me the protection of all the bodywork that I need. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to leave it on. So that's it. That's my video about the Flatland Racing bash guard for the Honda CRF300 Rally. It looks like a really good product actually. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think that I'd put it on and leave it on, but given that it gives that extra protection, if you have the Outback Motortek upper crash bars and you have the Flatland Racing guard on it, I think the side panels are safe. I mean, obviously if something goes in between them, then yeah, they're still going to get cracked. But if you just lay that down on the ground as it is, I think it clears it. You might pick up a few scratches, but it certainly gives a bit more protection. So it is heavier. It isn't quite as elegant as the Kodama Composites carbon fibre one. It doesn't really look as cool either, but yeah, it's on the bottom of the bike. I think with the extra holes that are in it, which will mean that it won't carry as much dirt, is maybe a positive. And the fact that it does give you that extra side protection. Downsides are, it is heavier. If you're in the UK or in Europe, importing a product from the US isn't always an economical thing to do. Anyway, I hope this video has been interesting and useful. If it has, maybe I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.